Welcome back and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. We all know how powerful video is, but the question is, are you showing up live or even doing pre-recorded video? Are you ready to put the camera in front of you, flip the phone, and start building relationships with people so they get to know you, like you, and trust you? For many people, it can be a fear factor, but are you putting yourself out there, not like Gary Vee says with hustle and volumes of content, but simply putting some thoughtful content out there with video to help you build your brand, find your voice, and connect with your tribe? Brian Schulman is the founder and CEO of Voice Your Vibe, a Forbes featured entrepreneur, one of the pioneering top LinkedIn video and LinkedIn Live creators in the world, a LinkedIn top voice, and a speaker. And on this episode, we'll discuss going live on LinkedIn and Facebook, helping founders and C-suite executives find their voice, showing up, Dr. Pepper, sombreros and snap filters, positivity, not letting perfection hold you back, connecting and voicing your vibe, being uncomfortable, shining your light on others, bad LinkedIn sales pitches, and a lot more. So let's tune in to the Godfather of LinkedIn video with the Godfather of LinkedIn Sharks on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Well, Brian, again, thank you so much for joining us today on A Shark's Perspective. If you would tell us a little bit about your background and your career today.
Yeah, sure. So known as the Godfather of LinkedIn video, one of the world's top video marketing experts. I've been on the internet since it was literally green screen and chat rooms. 21 plus years of proven digital marketing experience, strategizing with our 500, Fortune 500 brands across the globe. I'm a Forbes featured entrepreneur, a LinkedIn top voice, founder and CEO of Voice Your Vibe. I serve on a number of boards. A trusted advisor and mentor to founders and companies across the world. I was named a 2019 LinkedIn Video Creator of the Year, one of the pioneering top LinkedIn video as well as LinkedIn Live creators in the world. And when we're not in COVID, a sought after international speaker. I do speaking engagements throughout the year. My LinkedIn Live shows have been featured on Forbes, Thrive Global, Yahoo Finance just recently. And last year, it's crazy how fast time goes by, but July of 2019, I broke the LinkedIn Live record of broadcasting live for more than 4 hours. And again, when we're not in the crazy world that we're living in today of a pandemic, love to do one-on-one mastery coaching, working with founders, C-suite execs who want to find their voice and show up and don't know how, and teach them how to do that stuff. Tell a story people fall in love with on LinkedIn through video.
So is it fair to say that a bulk of your business today comes through coaching that you've achieved from getting out there so much, basically as a LinkedIn influencer, if you will?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, for sure.
So when you start looking at, we got introduced through a conference series owner who looked at your profile and wanted the two of us to connect for an upcoming conference where we're both going to speak in 2021, God willing. But yeah, when you look at where you're going with your brand, obviously trying to create a bigger following, kind of translate where you see that turn into a business plan for you and what you're trying to achieve to grow your revenue.
Yeah, it's a great question, right? Because I think that's something that a lot of people are looking at right now. So many people
get so many people that are pivoting to grow followers, but don't necessarily know how to translate that into something else that helps other people other than just themselves get noticed.
Yeah, 100%. And it's such a really good point that you mentioned, right? Because I think I always try for people to understand the fact that it's not about you, it's about your tribe, right? It's always about serving other people. Right? If you have a live show, if you have a coaching business, if you're a Fortune company, right? It's always about your customer and your tribe, your audience. And when I got on LinkedIn 17 years ago, it was never about business. It was about, I want to inspire one person a day. Now that turned into a lot of business in so many ways, speaking around the world and coaching clients and all sorts of stuff, right? So I think I always bring it back to knowing your why, because your why will drive everything. As long as your why is not to do business, everyone wants to do business. So my live shows are a great example. It wasn't about I wanted to generate business. It was how do I take that, especially in the pandemic, how do I take that and pivot so that I can lift people's spirits? How can I make people smile, laugh, feel better? Because we all feel like crap in this world we've been living in for the last 6+ months. And it's really hard, right? It's really easy to go down. It's not as easy to go up and feel better. So interestingly enough, from showing up, right? And I introduce things like social disc dancing in my shows, where people will show up and they'll dance, we'll have fun, we'll talk about the good in the world, because there's always a silver lining, and give shout outs and gratitude to people, because giving gratitude makes you feel better. I've had businesses come to me about sponsoring the shows, which is revenue. And those things happened organically. So again, it wasn't my intent, but they happened as a byproduct of, right? Articles being written as a byproduct of people sharing about how they have been depressed and they felt better coming on the show. Like that means more to me than revenue, to be honest, Kenneth. Like that's impact. And it's always to me about impact, but from impact does come revenue, because how you make people feel stays with them versus what you say.
Well, and by the way, speaking of sponsors, this show is brought to you by my Dr. Pepper.
There you go.
But I've seen some of them. A lot of times, you and another gentleman that you do the shows with, often with your Facebook shows as well. You're wearing a sombrero. You're wearing a Cookie Monster puppet. I mean, it's
Snap
over the top. Yeah, Snap.
Oh, totally over the top.
Yeah,
totally over the top.
You've got wigs on, and just it's silliness, but it's positive. But I mean, I think the same thing exists very often with people like me that speak at conferences all over the world as well. Somebody comes up to you, and it's not like they're giving you. I mean, you can get plenty of checks as we have speaking on a stage, but at the same time, and you want to help people, you're also getting that brand you keep building. Those more people come up to you, and success sort of breeds success. So the more that you're out there, the more people see you, the more followers you get. That translates eventually in income. But what are the kind of problems that people are coming to you to try to help them solve?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think people are experiencing so many different types of challenges, right? Which I look at as opportunities. Here, a major one is I had a top 100 TEDx speaker come to me, right? And she has no problem being on stage, but getting in front of the camera, she was terrified, absolutely terrified. And I could relate to that, because that was me too. I had no problem getting on stage, but putting the phone in front of my face and staring at myself was a whole different dynamic. I had to control everything, right? From the content, from the editing, all of it. You had to do it all, or at least in my case, I did. And I wanted to learn that because it was all new too. But yeah, finding that bravery and courage, taking yourself into a whole nother world per se, it's the most common challenge that comes up. And then of course, like, what the heck do I talk about? And how do I get past this? And how do I get more authentic, not to use words that are overused, but how do I get more genuine, authentic, and real, and let me come out, right? And I always say it's the heart of it all that matters. And I think when I'm able to help people get out of their head and come from more their heart, which is where we've all been living for the last 6+ months, right? We're not living here. We're living here with our chest cracked open and our hearts beating wide. And we're definitely more feeling than we are thinking, because everything is just so crazy. That's one of those things that I think is the most challenging for people. Then there's all the other things that come with it, right? It's okay, great. Well, now I'm out of my head. So I get that. Well, how do I show up and not feel promotional, right? Because that's a big one too that comes up. And I always say, well, when you're shining your light bright on others and you're not thinking about you and whatever it is you're selling, you come from a very different place, right? Because it's more about, like example, when we're done, I'll take a picture of us and I'll do a post promoting you and your show and our awesome conversation, right? And I don't feel like it's promotional because it's me shining my light bright on you and your show because I want to do that, right? So the more people think about it that way, and the more you come from your heart, and the more you think about stories versus selling, because everybody loves a good story. Nobody wants to be sold to. And I come from building and growing teams or selling for the past 20+ years in tech. So I guess there's a dynamic of that I bring into it too, which is just be human, right? Just be human with a heartbeat, and that makes you relatable, which is really important. People don't have to go through what you've gone through, but we all relate in different ways, by sharing stories.
Well, thank you for not, I heard you say authentic, but thank you for not using unprecedented or any of those words. But
now more than ever, and
now more than ever, yeah, these uncertain times. But
yes.
so for me, I have less of a problem being live, and that's partly because I was doing live radio and live TV years ago. The going
Right.
back and editing and knowing you can fix something and you try to make it perfect is where I think for me, I probably get caught in my headspace if there's any space up there. That's probably where I get that, because it's so easy to go live if you're comfortable and brave, and that doesn't really bother me. But I do see a lot of people try to spend too much time trying to be perfect on things, and especially on almost kind of like finding that perfect Instagram shot. You waste way too much time when nobody cares, and you scroll through the feed or somebody else's story. It's no big deal. But when you look at what businesses can achieve out of coming out and talking to you, what do you generally see them reach out to you about and give them some benefit?
Yeah. So you said something a minute ago that I want to go back to real quick, and I'll answer that, is that we do naturally all want to show up and be perfect. Like our definition of perfect. It's like, no, I didn't smile right. No, the makeup isn't right. No, this, that, no, that. Right. And we're our own worst critics, by the way. No one else cares. Like
No.
they don't, it's us, right? So you get in your head about that. And I've been through all of it. Like, so that's the thing, is I've been through anything and everything anyone could ever go through, which is why I get when everyone's like, oh no, the lighting and this and that and whatever. I'm like, I get it. Like all you gotta do is show up, all that other stuff. It doesn't matter. And businesses, the biggest challenge I think, Kenneth, for businesses is they don't, especially for LinkedIn, they don't get how they're supposed to show up. Honestly, it's not even just business. It's like, yes, everyone on LinkedIn is in business, from the founder to the funder to the chairman to the janitor to the C-suite exec and everyone in between. And I think the challenge is that it's that predisposition, right? I know Facebook is where I go for friends and family. I know YouTube is where it's a mutt. It's like a mosh of everybody. TikTok is generally kids, but it's changed. And again, they all morph in different ways, right? And usually they don't start out as business. They morph into business, and ads are everywhere and all that, right? Then you think of a LinkedIn, it's a business social networking platform. So naturally people think, well, if they know it's an engagement platform at that, right? Most people think it's a digital resume and a place to look for a job. Then they find out, oh, it's an engagement platform now. Oh, okay. Well, so I got to show up in my proverbial suit and my suit speak. And no, like that's X number one. Like that's the last place you should start, because nobody knows who you are yet. Mm-hmm. Right? So people have to fall in love with you before they're going to listen to what you have to say. And I always say, and I think it'll vary too. And I've worked with business across all verticals, right? So think about the Fiserv and insurance world. Well, they have rules and regulations. They can't show up and talk about business and their opinions and everything. They can't do it. But there's no issues with them showing up and talking about anything else that's personal, which is exactly where you should be. So I always say business should be 10% of what you show up and talk about on LinkedIn. Everything else is more stories, personal, help people get to know who you are, right? So I find businesses struggling a lot with that. How do I show up is number one, right? So it's helping them understand that dynamic. And then it's about being personal. It's about sharing stories. It's about being you. It's about relatability, and starting there. I worked with a CEO in San Diego, and he had some great tech, right? Like all the great gadgets, and showed up really professional, had this really, really nice groomed beard and just a good backdrop. He was in a WeWork office, and they were really polished, his videos. The challenge is it was all business. And he found me through a mutual friend, and he's like, look, I'm making these videos and I got all this tech, but nobody's showing up. Like, what am I doing wrong? And I said, let me watch some of your videos. And I watched just a couple of them, and I noticed the trend, and I'm like, here's the thing. I said, forget the business for a second. Tell me about you. And he's like, okay, well, I'm a dad. I have a couple daughters. I'm like, how old are your daughters? And I'm like, cool. Like, what do you do with your daughters? And he's like, well, funny enough, like they gave me a facial the other day, like, facial mask or whatever. And I'm like, cool. Did they take a picture? He's like, yeah. I said, awesome. Post a picture of you with your facial, share the story about you and your daughters in this experience. He's like, really? I said, just trust me, just do it. He's like, the post blew up. It's more than I've ever seen, whatever. He's like, how did this happen? I said, because you're human. I said, one, I want you to realize how many millions of parents there are on LinkedIn, right? Because before the job, the role, the title of the company, you're a human. Again, it's about that relatability. So he started to get it, and it's more of some of his strategy, and things started to change for him, right? People started to show up, and I said, start showing up and sharing gratitude. He's a veteran, right? I'm like, awesome. And he did this series, and I'm like, show up and give shout outs to other veterans on the platform, right? Because again, when you shine a light on others, it says a lot about who you are as a human being. It's not about you. You're showing up to shine your light on them, and it hits the heart, so he started to do some of that stuff too. And again, impact. So with businesses, I think the most important thing too that always comes up is, should I be posting videos? And again, I talk about LinkedIn because that's where most people want to be showing up. They just don't get it, and they want to generate revenue there. Should I be posting videos on my business page or my personal page, or both? And the thing is, like, your business page, whether it's native video, pre-recorded, or live, is a great place to be showing up. I would say more to repurpose content. Your personal page is really where you should live, because that's your human with a heartbeat, right? If I went to Shark's business page, I wouldn't think Kenneth. I would think Shark's business page, unless I really knew you, and I knew that, right?
Anybody that knows me knows that's
right.
I go by Shark,
that's your brand.
I go by Kenneth, yeah.
Right, exactly. But they would know that. But like the masses of your 675 million people, they wouldn't know any better. They'd go, oh, this is this business, right? But if Kenneth was showing up with the Sharks behind him, and again, they would get to know who you were, and they would associate you, the human with a heartbeat, to the brand and showing up and all that, right? So I always recommend for those businesses to realize that your most underutilized and best asset is your employees, it's your people, right? Because they love the company. They would love to show up and talk about how much they love the company. They do it every day when they talk to prospects and customers and partners. So what a great way is to do that is through your personal page. But more importantly is realizing that they're going to naturally just go back and go, oh, Kenneth is the founder of Sharks. Oh, okay. They're going to look at your profile. So if Kenneth shows up and talks about how much you love diving, and you create a series around that, and you're showing up in different locales, a video you've created, like, that's cool stuff, right? And people get used to seeing that, and all those people that dig it are like, oh, he's got a new video coming out every Wednesday. Awesome. I can't wait to see it. Or he's going live from this location. Super cool, right? Or whatever. Or you talk about all the dynamics of diving, right? Like the gear you need to have, how you have to learn how to breathe, the testing you should do before, after, like all that kind of stuff, right? People will tune in for that. And again, they'll naturally look back and go, what does Kenneth do? I dig this guy. I want to know what he does. And that's the kicker, right? It all starts with you, the human being, and building that relationship through the lens. And then they go back and go, oh, wow, I didn't know he did that. I want to work with him. I'm going to reach out to Kenneth and go, hey, I've been following your shows. These are awesome. I just found out what you did because I was curious. I'd love to talk to you about that. That's a consistent trend.
Yeah. Well, and I also find not nearly enough people still leverage creating a video and putting it on their own personal page. And I don't know why.
Yes.
I'm guilty of it too, but I've given more people this advice than I've done it myself. that especially are in sales roles, because every LinkedIn connection you get in these days currently is somebody trying to sell something. Most of them are doing it horribly. Yeah. They're just front loading a bad sales pitch with, there's no reason for me to connect with that person whatsoever. They haven't investigated enough. But when I go look at somebody else's profile, if there's anything about them that's more humanizing, they become a lot more endearing, whatever it is. I don't care if they're saving puppies or giant sharks or whatever it is. It's just, people are not using this channel to really be able to connect. And so we just get, bombarded with a lot of bad sales pitches. So,
no, every single day. And it's worse now. I have to say it. It's worse now. It's worse now more than ever it was, because people are,
because a lot of people need they maybe have lost their job. They're trying to hit numbers, but that doesn't mean that they don't have to be bad at their sales pitches.
So. No, and it's the connection. What you said was it's what it's all about. It's that connection, and that connection is the human connection, right? Emotional intelligence is so important. I can tell you, I've been on LinkedIn almost 17 years every single day come December. And honestly, pre my own company last couple of years and co-founding others, like I was either building and growing sales teams at a company or carrying a bag. And I got really, really good at building relationships, both in the connection and post connection, right? And the most important thing any salesperson can do, and I train sales teams, is realizing that you're in this for the long haul. There is no quick hit. You're not going to get a close off the first thing. Selling someone in the invite is the worst thing you can do, because you are literally killing any potential opportunity of building a relationship long term, because they know you and they know that's how you do things, and they're not going to want to work with you. Mm-hmm. So the other thing that you said is with video and showing up in a personal page, like, you know, there's some interesting stats, and these are pre-COVID, and I'm sure that, you know, everything is to the guild way up here. So, but pre-COVID, I mean, 80% of content consumed online is actually through video, right? And brands will use video, especially on their websites, to build brand awareness. But when it comes to like service and product purchasing decisions, 90% of people actually use that stuff to make business decisions. Mm-hmm. Do I want to buy this product? Do I want to buy this service? Socially, again, pre-COVID, it was like 12x the shares of text and image combined. But I think the most important part is people don't think about the fact that, well, now they do. Because of COVID, there's a silver lining, right? More Zoom chats, more live shows, more videos, more Skype calls, right? Because you can't go and visit people. You can't hug people in real life, but you can do it through the lens. And the only thing missing is you can't physically touch the person. You can't smell the person, although I'm pretty sure somebody created smell-o-vision at some point. But that's the thing, right? Like, I mean, I get on calls or Zoom chats with people and they're like, wow, I feel like I've known you for years, because they've seen the live shows or the videos. And that's the kicker. That's the part that you have to realize, is that you do connect with people that way.
Well, and it doesn't have to be anything long. Nobody, I think, with any good sense, is trying to something like LinkedIn into Tinder. I mean, this is not, we're not trying to, for people to wear out a bunch of personal stories that people don't want to hear about, but you do business with people you like generally, unless it's, even if it's an e-commerce channel, you got to like it to some degree. But I do think one of the things that's really important about LinkedIn, especially today, and being able to leverage video, whether it's LinkedIn Live or Facebook Live or Instagram, whatever the platform, at least with LinkedIn, because not enough people are taking advantage of it, now's the time to get in and stand out. I hope that it doesn't turn into where you swipe left or right. I don't even know which one the Tinder is, but if you swipe one direction and you're looking at some different profile, like it's a TikTok video. You don't want to just scroll up and down and just mindlessly gloss over what somebody looks like. This is something where you can talk about. But I do think that even though the technology has gotten a lot easier, one of the biggest problems, you said something about this earlier about engagement. And this is a big problem for companies across the board, every industry, every vertical. You said that a lot of them were happy about, representing these companies. I don't remember exactly how you said it, but it was said very well. I don't know that enough people are going to be comfortable extending their personal brand as they build these and attaching these to a brand that they can't trust anymore, because look, COVID again exposed something else, that if you're not considered essential, a lot of people lost their jobs. So you don't want to see somebody just, and it's unfortunate, but it goes towards building your own personal brand as well, and telling that story, as opposed to necessarily putting on a corporate logo hat and then saying, hey, I'm working for this company today. I love them because of this.
Yes. No, that's so important, Kenneth. It's so important. See, again, one of the things we mentioned earlier was the fact that when you show up and you're human, you're you, right? And you're sharing your stories, and like it'd be you, Kenneth, it'd be you talking about, hey, I'm a dad. I got a son. We were out playing football earlier. My wife had to go to the doctor because she wasn't feeling well. I had a podcast coming up. People can relate to that. It's real world. Everything's upside down, right? That doesn't mean you're talking about business. And that's the thing, is by showing up and being personable. And this is the other part too, right? Is companies need to extend their leash on their people. They need to give people the benefit of the doubt. They need to realize that, and you said it perfectly, people do business with people they like, and that they also know and that they trust. And when you're going through a sales cycle, you're building a relationship with that person, right? Like if you and I had never met, I would ask you those questions. It'd be like, you'd probably show up with the Sharks. I'd be like, hey, tell me about the Sharks, you know? And I always ask about kids because I'm a dad, right? And I'm like, do you have kids? And you get to know each other, right? And that's the same thing you do through video and speaking to engagement. That's what'll happen in the comments,
Yeah.
right? People will show up and be like, oh, Kenneth, you like sharks? I went diving last year in the Bahamas or whatever it is, right? And it's that connection point. You never know who's paying attention, okay? And if you remember human first, you'll realize that before the job, the role, the title of the company, it's that relationship. People could see the sharks immediately connect with you, and it could be someone at a company that you want to do business with, right? So
Well,
I think.
Let me add one other thing.
Yeah.
You said sales. This is not just being a salesperson. This is selling yourself if you're looking for a job. I mean,
Yes.
building that brand.
Yes.
People are going to hire you, not based on how pretty you are, because there's plenty of pretty and ugly employees everywhere, but they need to be able to connect with you somehow to see how you might fit in their roles. So you
Absolutely.
are what you are. Be proud of it, and it doesn't take
That's
a lot
it.
to put yourself out there.
Be you.
Yeah.
Be you, right? And I know that's hard. It sounds weird. You're like, well, why wouldn't I just show up and be me? Okay. Put the phone in front of your face. It's not easy, but the more you do it, right? I mean, I've made almost 800 videos on LinkedIn since I started, which will be 3 years towards it's almost October already. Yeah. Late end October, early November. And I can tell you that the more you do it, the more comfortable getting uncomfortable you are. And that's the thing. You know, get perfection out of your head. If you realize that it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to be uncomfortable, and actually that's when you're growing. So, and something you just said, which is really more important right now because so many people are out of work and getting laid off or furloughed or whatever. By showing up, the most important thing you can do is always show up, regardless of what company you're at. Especially on LinkedIn. Show up, be you, share stories, share your vibes, as I call them, right? Because, you know, we each have these things that we love. Like Kenneth loves sharks. Kenneth's a dad. Kenneth loves speaking. He loves people. Like, you know, he loves getting on video. He loves getting on stages, right? And it's so many, these are all vibes of yours, right? And you showing up and talking about that or things you're passionate about, they come through the lens and you can feel that. So I think that's the thing to remember, right? Is just know that when you show up and talk about things that you're excited about and you're passionate about, today you can't go and meet someone in person to interview at a company. You'll get on a Zoom or whatever, but also by showing up on video, that helps people get to know who you are. It helps them get to know your personality. Because at the end of the day, when you meet in person after your 2 or 3 or 5 phone interviews, the reason you're meeting in person is because they want to see if you're a good cultural fit. They want to see if the vibe is right and if that feel is there. And you can give people that through video. So absolutely 1,000,000%, Kenneth, what you said is so spot on, is get on video and share you, because by doing that, that helps companies see you. Here's a great thing too, right? Strategically, if you have companies that you want to see you, right? Because you need to be seen, you need to be heard, and video is the way to do it. Because you can't go show up in person. Go and strategically look for those companies. Look for executives at those companies. Look for hiring managers at those companies. See if they're sharing and creating content, right? And then go and start and engage on that content, because when you do that, they'll see you showing up and they'll be like, I see this Kenneth guy showing up, not like stalkery, right? But like, this guy Kenneth keeps showing up and supporting. That's really cool. I got to go check him out. And then they'll see you're creating videos and go, I kind of like this guy. And then what you'll do is you'll go to your who's viewed my profile and you'll see this hiring manager who strategically you were going and engaging with just viewed your profile. Go send them a personalized message. Hey, Kenneth, I noticed you stopped on my profile. Thanks so much. I've been following some of your videos. It'd be great to connect. No business speak, any of that, no selling. And then once you connect, thank them. Tell them you appreciate them. It's great to connect. Hey, if I ever can do anything for you, let me know. I'm happy to help. Again, human to human, right? And just start to build that relationship and keep engaging. And next thing you know, you're having a conversation together. And oh wow, tell me about you, Kenneth. Yeah, well, actually, I'm in between gigs because of COVID, and all these things, and this is what I love. And they could be saying, actually, we're looking for someone. Boom, look at that. You've already built a relationship. You started having a conversation that was all about just human to human, and you wound up talking about business, which naturally happens through your conversations at some point, and you found an opportunity.
Agreed. No, LinkedIn could not be a better place for people to at least look at connecting first, then selling. So
Yeah,
I love that. But so you do a show on Facebook, you go live on Facebook and on LinkedIn, right?
So Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So it started on LinkedIn,
Okay.
and I have 2 shows every week. What's
But you
Good
didn't
Wednesday
start going.
Live?
You didn't start going live on LinkedIn. You started posting videos, and then got to a point where they invited you to go live, right?
Yeah, so I was a part of the beta program, the invite-only beta program for LinkedIn Video back in 2017. Actually, it was the alpha, but I was terrified to get on camera, so it took me that long to get on. And then LinkedIn Live launched in alpha or in beta in 2019, February of 2019. So yeah, I was invited to that as well. And it started with behind-the-scenes stuff. Pre-COVID, I love taking people to conferences and shows and keynotes when I went to Australia, and just the experience. I wanted people to feel like they were right there with me, but they couldn't be there physically, right? So I thought there was something really cool and just neat about that. And then COVID hit, and I started to up my other shows, and then I again tweaked them, because I'm like, okay, well, this is naturally about what's good and giving gratitude, but I need to add another dynamic. I want to make this more fun and uplifting. And then I also want to do something different. So I created social distancing, because I didn't like the word social distancing. It sounded like an oxymoron. I'm like, physical distancing, social togetherness. What can I do with this? Okay, social distancing. We'll have some fun, play some music, do some dancing. And the filters didn't come in until after. It was a friend of mine that's like, did you know you can integrate Snapcam into other platforms like StreamYard and others? I'm like, get out of here. I didn't know that. And so I had them show me. I'm like, this is cool. And I thought, I've always bucked the odds, if you will, and done things that nobody was doing. I'm going to do this. Nobody is doing this on LinkedIn. It's totally fun, different, and unique and wacky, because that's the world we're living in. So let's do that. And then I started to invite guests on my show live from the comments. Like, anyone can join from around the world and come on the show. And the fact that it was not like interview-esque and deep, it was more just, hey, let's just have some fun, It helped lighten the mood, and people were less scared. People would show up and be like, you want me to come on the show? No way. My house is upside down, this, that. I'm like, come on, we're all going through that. I've had people show up in their robes. Like, I mean, just, and I think it's great, because it inspires other people to go, oh yeah, hey, I can do that. Oh yeah, hey, I can get on video. Oh yeah, everything's crazy in my house too, but I can still show up because everyone else is experiencing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And like you had mentioned earlier, like when people show up and they're down, or they're not feeling good, or they're depressed, or, I mean, we've all gone through that. Especially during the last 6 months. Yeah. And then they leave, Kenneth, and they're like, I feel so much better. Like, that means more to me than anything.
It's why TikTok grew. I mean, everybody needs a distraction right now. So
that's right. So
where are you wanting to see this continue to grow?
Yeah. So the live shows.
I mean, we're doing this now. We're recording this in the fall of 2020, but let's say a year from now, and hell, if anybody has a crystal ball past next Tuesday, good luck.
Right.
Let alone next fall. But as we start to get out more, where do you start seeing sort of a longer term, if you will, how this is going to progress with what you're doing on live, whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook or any other channel?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because it was one of those things that I didn't have any plan for. I just did it. I just started, right? As I always say, just start.
I mean, you're going to have those questions next year. Aren't you upset about having to go outside all the time and spend time with people? I mean, horrible.
I know, right? Well, I'll tell you, right? It's interesting, because you think about just the human dynamics. And I do have a degree in psychology. I'm not going to get all psychobabble on you, but like, even now, because it's going to get worse before it gets better. But next year, like, just how we're gonna, like, I love hugging people.
Fascinated by it. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's like, how are we gonna really like interact? Are we gonna just walk up and hug people like we used to? Or are we gonna like, oh, hey, distance high five, or so that'll be really interesting. But I think what I've found is when that I have companies coming to want to pay sponsor the shows, I'm thinking to myself, like, this is interesting. This could be a whole nother revenue stream that I didn't think about at all. Didn't intend to go down a road of and go, hey, this could be really good. I mean, I could just have a bunch of sponsors for each of the shows, and and again, the going out part, I mean, in terms of the behind the scenes, that could be a whole nother sponsored show. I could have multiple sponsored shows that in itself could just be its own revenue stream. And,
I've
in
been
addition,
thinking the exact same thing. The number of people that I actually posted a show about where your digital dollars go when trade shows are canceled. And this can continue, but I don't know where it's going to turn out to be 12 months from now. Nobody does.
Yeah, no. You made a really good point. I mean, we can't even look past next Tuesday. So I think until we and
Dr. Fauci,
I don't want to say the
no, he was wrong. No, he was right again. No, he's wrong.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like, look, we're never going to be in the place that we were. Yes, the word new normal, it is real. I mean, there's going to be a whole new place that we're living in. And I think the more people that realize that, and again, the silver lining, right? Like, people realize now that you have to show up digitally, that it is a way for you to be able to connect with people. Whereas pre-pandemic, they were kind of like, yeah, that digital thing, I know it's a thing, but I don't really need to do that. I can still go to, well, now you realize when you can't, that it's a must, that it's there, that you can, but you got to learn. So I think the smart people have used this time to learn how, what, why, and realize that it's something that'll always be there. And if you don't do it and we get into the next bam, right, you'll have a way to generate revenue. But if you don't, you're behind the eight ball where others aren't, and you're behind your competition where others aren't. Think about it that way. How can you always be evolving? And I think if you look at digital that way, if you look at live streaming, because live streaming, I think, is and will and pretty much has superseded native or pre-recorded video, don't discount the impact of doing both. You have to show up, you have to be seen, you have to be heard. As a business, as an individual, personally, no matter what, even if you're an employee at a company, even if you're looking for a job, you should always be showing up, because you never know what opportunity will present itself in terms of a human-to-human connection and building a relationship that could lead to you who knows where. You don't have to know that either. That's the part I think most people are looking at, is going, but I need to know where it's going to end up. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
I said that, I never would have been where I am now today. I never would have failed as many times, built the amazing relationships I have, and we never would have met. Like, if you when you show up, incredible things happen. Just keep showing up, keep falling, realizing that you're learning and growing, and that by showing up, you're giving yourself an opportunity for something great to happen.
Well, and this doesn't even necessarily fall into Gary Vee's hustle. I mean, this is pretty easy stuff. This is just putting content out there that's just a conversation. It's not trying to stage it, which is where I think some of his sometimes get lost, or where people criticize it. It's not a flaw of his. So where do you want people to start if you're not traditionally different for a brand? Because the brand's going to be led, there's going to be a person doing this anyway. But from an individual standpoint, where do you think they should start? Because their goal may not necessarily be to be a LinkedIn Live host or a Facebook show host. I mean, that's a different story.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about video. And when I say native, for those of you that are watching and are listening, I'm saying pre-recorded. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 quick tips. So tip number 1 is show up and be human. Again, I know it sounds elementary, but put the phone in front of your face. It's harder than it seems, but showing up is the most important part, and just being you is the most important thing. So tip 1 is show up and be human. Tip 2 is engage and support, and we've talked about that a little bit. Regardless of the platform, build community and shine your light bright on others. It says a lot about who you are as a human being, and you will never go wrong by shining your light on other people, okay? Every one of these digital playgrounds, as I call them, that all of these companies, these tech companies have created for us, we have to decide to show up and play, right? We as kindergartners decide to show up and play in the kindergarten. So they've given you the playground. You just have to show up and play. And all your friends are there and new people you haven't met before, like the first day of school. Once you show up, once you shine your light on others, once you start to build community, you start to have conversations in the comments, you're building that up. So engage and support is tip 2. Tip 3 is create. Now, creating happens in many ways. Creating can happen through in the comments and engagement. But I'm talking about video. So realize that if you're watching and listening to this, that you do have a voice and a story that matters, and that your voice and story can and will positively impact, affect, and inspire another human being's life just by showing up and being you and by sharing stories. Remember that it's all about relatability. Okay, so talk about what you're interested in, talk about what you're excited about, talk about what you're passionate about. And in these times, talk about what you're scared about. I mean, that's relatable. You know, Kenneth was talking earlier about, we might not have been able to do the show because his wife was at the doctor and wasn't feeling well. And his 9-year-old had digital schooling and he had to do the pod. Like, that's relatable. We can all, relate to that. And that's the part. I don't have to have gone through what you went through, but your story is relatable to me because I can think about an experience that may have been similar as a parent or whatever, right? 60 seconds or less is your best friend when it comes to pre-recorded video. Here's why. Everyone is 60 seconds. Kenneth, you said something earlier that's really important. I don't want this to be this scroll feed thing, video. Well, I mean, it's going to happen, but what's going to get people to stop and watch your video? Well, everyone's got 60 seconds. Believe me, you can say a lot in 60 seconds. So just remember that 60 seconds or less is your best friend. Now, if you're scared, if you're totally nervous about getting in front of the camera, here's what I want you to do. 30-day challenge for you. Video journal, just for you. Every single day, make one video. It doesn't matter what time of day it is or any of that stuff. Just make sure at least you can see yourself. It'll help you get comfortable being uncomfortable. Don't worry about what you're talking about. Realize that if you are uncomfortable when you do it, which will happen a lot, that's when you're growing, unbeknownst to you. So that's a good thing. I would say if you don't want to look at yourself, flip your phone over and paste a picture of somebody here that makes you feel comfortable. This is where you connect with your tribe, this lens right here. So this is an example. I'm looking at Kenneth on the screen. Now I'm looking at the lens and you see the difference of where my eyes are. Now I'm connecting with you. So do that once a day, every day for 30 days. Don't worry about how long. I did say yes, 60 seconds, but this is just about getting comfortable in front of the lens. The cool part about this too is as you do these videos, I want you to tell yourself that you're uncomfortable. I want you to tell yourself that you don't want to make this video. I want you to tell yourself all those things because what will happen is 20 videos down the way of your journal, you're going to say, I can't do this. I want you to go back to those videos where you told yourself that and realize you're 20 days ahead of it already and you did already and that you can again. All right. So create is the really important part. The other thing to remember is that the exercise, Kenneth, of picking up your phone in this video journal, picking up your phone, smile first, hit record, keep smiling, wait 2 seconds, then start talking. Why? That process is subconscious because that scares the crap out of you just to do that alone and you haven't even started yet. But the more you do it, the more you're out of your head. It's just natural and then you're making your videos. The smiling part's important because if you're not creating what's called a thumbnail on the front of your video, and it's just you raw, the first second of the frame of the video is what they see. So if you're like that, they're going to see that, which may get their attention, but maybe not. So that's the create part. 2 more tips. Be consistent. That's number 4. Consistency is key. Create a content strategy and a calendar to create a level of consistency that works for you. And I say for you because Kenneth, what works for you and what works for me, our jam may not work for somebody else. You want to find a groove that works for you. And when you show up consistently, your tribe is going to show up. The last one is collaborate. I always say incredible things happen like we're doing right now, right? Incredible things happen when we come together. So just remember, and I think Simon Sinek said it best, remember that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Remember that you're in this digital world now more sorry, more than ever. Remember that your smile is now your logo. Your personality is now your business card. And how you leave other people feeling after that experience with you through video, whether it be pre-recorded or live, that's your trademark. And the last thing on this, and this is really important, and we've kind of touched on it a few times through, is, and Maya Angelou said it best, people may forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you make them feel, right? We don't buy things because of how much they cost, right? You're not wearing that. Actually, I know that brand. What is your t-shirt? That's old school.
That's Greg Norman.
Yes. Yes. You didn't buy that shirt because of how much it cost. You bought it because you thought it looked cool. It's also part of your brand. And it probably makes you feel a certain way. You're like, yeah, I like this. It makes you feel cool.
It reminds me that I suck at golf, but I like to swim with sharks.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. So that's the thing, right? Is remember, it's all about how things make us feel. And if you leave people with that feel when they walk away, that makes the experience they've had with you a memorable one.
Well, I will say one other thing, just to put a bow on this at the end before I ask you these closings. When we talk about engagement, I don't think brands really understand how powerful, because they're all right. They're suffering right now with crappy engagement. You get so much more from your employees. They will jump all over this than just static imagery is probably a better way of describing it. But going live can really help build a brand pretty quickly, not just personal brand, but drive engagement on social channels for corporate brands. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, so true. Let me actually give a couple quick tips on that, because LinkedIn Live specifically is a whole different beast.
Yeah.
It's still in beta a year plus later. So not everyone can get access to it. There's probably, I say, less than 500 now people
but they can on Facebook.
Yes, they can. So here, let's talk. Perfect point, because that's tip number one. So there's about 500 of us plus or minus that are approved live broadcasters. There's a link, and I'll give it to you, Kenneth, so people have it, that you can click on that'll allow you to apply. First is, if you get denied, please don't take it personally. Most people have to apply 4, 5, 10 times before they get approved. But here are the tips. So you just alluded to one of them. Tip 1 is go live on other platforms. Right. So show LinkedIn that you already create live video content. I suggest streaming on like Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, to name a few. Make sure they're set to public so anyone can access them. Tip 2 is create native videos. Right. So, and you can do that on any platform. But on LinkedIn, the cool part is when you're going live on a Facebook, for example, you can download that afterwards.
Exactly.
What you can show LinkedIn that you know how to create native videos, but also tip 2, I should say tip 1, which is going live, helps you create native videos, which is tip 2. Use your live broadcasts, slice the heck up out of them, and repurpose those into 60-second videos. Yeah, you don't have to worry about anything else other than go live and then slice that up to create a bunch of different content, right? So tip 3 is engage. We just talked about engagement. Engage in other live streams that you see, other hosts that have shows. It does a couple things for you. 1 is it grows your tribe. 2 is you'll better understand the feature of live streaming on LinkedIn, because you actually have to use a third-party platform to go live on LinkedIn. You can't just do it like Facebook where you'd say go live. Mm-hmm. But it also shows that you're invested. The cool thing about the engagement part too is ask to be a guest on other people's live shows on LinkedIn. You've got a 50-50 shot. They're either going to say yes or say no. If you don't ask, it's going to be a no matter what, right? So ask to go live on other people's shows. LinkedIn sees that you're showing up on shows, not only engaging in comments, because they pay attention to who shows up.
Brian, can I be on your show?
Of course you can. You just got to the next part. You're like feeding right into the you're feeding right into the next part. So I always also say is, hey, if you want to go live, I have 2 weekly shows. Anyone is welcome to go live on my shows. All you have to do is show up.
Yeah.
Right. But it also, Kenneth, it tells them a kind of vibe you have. Right. Mm-hmm. So like when you go live on a show, we'll get to see the dynamic of you and your personality and all that. And it'll help them understand how you would show up if you hosted your own show too. Right.
Yeah, agreed.
The last one is kind of what I alluded to in the beginning is don't be discouraged. take those steps 1, 2, and 3 that I shared, reapply, make sure the reason I told you that like when you go live on Facebook is to make them public is you want to share the links to those when you apply. So it makes it easy for anyone to go, oh, okay, I can go view this show. Now, here's one other quick thing. When you go live, for example, on Facebook and you take and repurpose that content and you repurpose it on LinkedIn, make sure that you say, episode 25, just live on Facebook. I don't have LinkedIn Live yet, but I keep applying. It's kind of like a gentle jab going, hey, LinkedIn, I keep applying. Make sure you don't miss that. And they know you're going live. And oh, here's the link to go check it out. And here's a screenshot from the show. And you're like, okay, I'm checking off all my boxes to say, hey, I do this. The other dynamic to remember, guys, too, is that they also want they want to make sure that it's something that's new and fresh they aren't seeing yet, right? They want it to be different and unique. So think about sharks. See, exactly, right? So that's different, right? I've never seen sharks show up on anybody's live shows. Well, this way, right? So, and when you show up on my show, I'll have shark filters and we'll have fun with that stuff too. But yeah, so that's a great example of being different just by an awesome dynamic behind you. So,
well, one other thing, let me want to add one more for you. Whenever you take that video, make sure that you transcribe it, because that way you can make all the Google nerds happy as well and use it in different, as a blog post, whatever the hell you want to do when you repurpose it. That's a lot of people forget, and I don't know why.
You make a great point. So one of the things that I always talk about, and it usually starts with like a blog and how you can take and turn that into like a bunch of different aspects of content. But this is a great one too. From your live, transcribe it. That'll allow you to create a blog or create a LinkedIn article or turn it into a newsletter or turn that into short form quotes, which you drive people back to the live stream of, use imagery, create LinkedIn what are called documents, which basically are multi-page PDFs, but they get really good reach because the algorithmic door is opened up a few times for you already. So it's awesome how you can take one thing and not only repurpose it into all these others, but help you benefit you to do more of those other things that you want, like LinkedIn Video or LinkedIn Live, or again, other platforms. I harp on LinkedIn just because anyone and everyone you ever want to do business with is there, but you just have to show up and be human first, and it will benefit you in so many different ways.
Just out of curiosity, which do you see more business success, if you will, with your two shows? You do a show on Wednesday and you do a show on Saturday. Are you getting where people are directly asking you questions more on a Wednesday because it's the normal work week, or do you see a lot more engagement on a Saturday? I'm just kind of curious because it's kind of you're not doing 2 business days, you're doing a business day and a weekend day. But now they all blend together because we're working weird schedules anyway.
That's right. Well, that's a really good question. So specifically to LinkedIn, I want you to understand that it doesn't matter whether it's a weekday or a weekend. People are on LinkedIn like they used to say on Facebook every day. It doesn't matter. Executives are on LinkedIn a lot over the weekend too. Pre-pandemic, obviously everybody's on more. So in this case, I mean, Shout Out Saturday always did really well because it was the place for people to show up every Saturday to share gratitude and love for those that have made a positive impact in their life. Like people would actually not do shows on Saturday because they realized everyone was showing up here. So that's where they'd go. But I will say the Wednesday show has definitely picked up, even, during the pandemic too. So, I don't know, one half dozen of the other. So yeah, but don't ever discount weekends. Like when people say, well, when should I show up? I always say, I would show up every day. Like just in terms of posting, right? Posting on LinkedIn, like you should show up once a day. I mean, it takes no time to post a quote. It takes no time to create some thought or share a story. I mean, really, I wouldn't say post a video every day. You'll get burnt out and then you'll have to take months off and then you'll start from ground zero.
Well, people got locked into their thinking of when they should drop a newsletter or a blog or an email and things like that. Here's your, the 7 best times to drop one. That's when anybody's reading an email. That's it. Sunday through Saturday.
Yeah, but define your groove. That's
define your group. It's what works best for you and your tribe. That's it. That's it.
Boom.
Read what everybody else is doing. Figure out what yours is. And then maximize that. So
there you go. 100%. All right.
Well, all right. We're at that special time of the show. You're in beautiful San Diego, and so I brought the beach to you.
Look at that. I love it.
That's not a beach in San Diego, but it works for the
It's
purpose of
beautiful.
this. So, Brian, I asked this of all my guests. What is your favorite kind of shark and why?
Oh God. Well, I'm not a shark guy. Okay, Jaws scared the crap out of me when I was a kid, and it had a lasting impact on me. So much that I went to Universal Studios growing up, and when they had that Jaws exhibit, I freaked out. So I have not been diving before. I've been snorkeling before. I've not been diving before. That's a fear that I did watch Shark Week, which you caught me mention in one of my lives.
Yeah.
And I did see Will Smith, who said he had a really big fear. I watched that one and he overcame it. I don't know if I have the balls enough to do something like that. We'll see. But but I did watch like the whole week, and there were some really cool sharks that I had never seen before.
Can you name the movie that he was in that featured sharks?
Can I name the movie that Will Smith was in that featured sharks?
Shark Tale. It's animated, but it still counts.
Oh yeah, I love Shark Tale. I'm like, wait, I'm not thinking animated. Yeah. I love Shark Tale.
Well, that can be a favorite. So, well, Brian, it's a special time in my show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions that you're going to be asked today?
I'm so ready.
All right, Number 1, are you team live or are you team replay?
I'm team live.
Okay. Number 2, LinkedIn or Facebook?
Oh, LinkedIn all the way.
Why so? Because aren't you seeing a little bit of one got you started?
I've been bleeding blue and white.
Okay.
I mean, I don't wear this because LinkedIn sponsors me. I wear this because it's changed my life. LinkedIn has changed. It's all because the people has changed my life so many times in the last almost 17 years. You talk about consistency. No one has been as consistent, I can say this, as I have, because I've been on the platform every single day for almost 17 years. Rain or shine, no matter where I am in the world, it will change. It will literally change your life if you let it, and it's all because of the people.
Good man. So, all right, number 3, the San Diego Chargers, formerly of San Diego, or the former San Diego Clippers?
Oh God. I grew up, born and raised in LA. I was always a Lakers and a Raiders guy, and then they moved.
It's got to hurt a little bit now that they keep grabbing all the teams.
Yeah, right, for sure. So you said tell me again.
The Chargers or the Clippers?
The Clippers were in San Diego originally? I didn't even know that.
I thought they were.
I mean, they may have been. That may have been so far back that I didn't know that. But I don't know. I mean, I was never really a Charger. I mean, I did go to a couple Clippers games when they were in LA. So I guess I'd say Clippers.
Hell, I got to look that up because we got to go with a totally different question if I get it wrong.
Again, you should be totally right. I just don't know because that may have been so far back. But like I went to Lakers games in the 80s. I went to Kobe's very first game as a Laker.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a cool game.
That is absolutely correct. So the Clippers start out in 70 as the Buffalo Braves, one of 3 expansion teams. The Braves moved from Buffalo to San Diego in 78, became the San Diego Clippers, and then in 84 they moved to LA. So
awesome.
I wasn't as ignorant as I thought I was.
No, that was I remember the 84 Olympics in LA, but I don't remember the Clippers when they were in San Diego. That's really cool.
All right. So number 4, TV or video? What do you consume more? I say TV, and I'm not talking about connected TV. Let's say TV programs or social video. That's probably a better way of saying it.
Wow. I'm online so much.
Yeah. Are you watching more stuff on Netflix or TikTok?
Yeah.
And TikTok may not be the best example, but
yeah, because literally anybody knows if you've gone on TikTok, you could literally be on there for 5 hours and blink and not realize it.
When we shut down in March, I've been on TikTok since about March, so right. I know how to shuffle dance.
I guess it's a dynamic between the two because it's like it kind of is this vicious cycle. Like I'll wind up at night.
You got to pick one or the other. It's Sophie's choice.
Yeah, I'd probably say the digital version, just because again, I am
Fair enough.
glued here. So
All right, number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
biscuits, although I like both, but biscuits.
Okay. Well, Brian, where can
Like a
people
good
find out
biscuit.
more about you, find you on social channels, blue or red, and more?
Yeah. Yeah. So I always say you can find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Brian Schulman. Follow the hashtag voice your vibe. I am on all of their platforms too, but I live and breathe on LinkedIn. But it's just at voice your vibe is on all their platforms. I will say if you're new to LinkedIn, or if you've been around a long time and you just realize it's this engagement place, I have a free 15 lesson course that's filled with nuggets to get you kind of what I call newbies to LinkedIn started. So I'll make sure that you have the link.
Yeah.
But it's linkedinmasterclass.thinkific.com. I did share earlier, if anybody would like to come and join me as a guest on either of my 2 LinkedIn live shows, you are more than welcome. I will make sure that you have that info. I'll send you an email after so everybody's got it. But it's Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. Nope, that's Saturday. Wednesdays for What's Good Wednesday Live is 11 o'clock Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Shout out Saturday Live is 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. And then I would just say, listen, if you have questions on how to LinkedIn video or LinkedIn Live, or just in general video and live video for your business, but LinkedIn is a different beast, and you want to talk video strategy, I'd love to chat with you. So you can always schedule a 15-minute free consultation call with me on my Calendly, which is just calendly.com/voiceyourvibe. And we can talk specifically about you and or your business, or even if you're looking for a gig or whatever and need a couple quick pointers around that kind of stuff. We can talk about that. But there you go.
Brian, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Kenneth, I appreciate you. So good to be here with you. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
So there was my conversation with Brian Schulman, the founder and CEO of Voice Your Vibe, a Forbes featured entrepreneur, one of the pioneering top LinkedIn video and LinkedIn Live creators in the world, a LinkedIn top voice, and a speaker. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with him. First, people have to get it out of their heads about going live and doing video. We want to show and be perfect, but that perfection is often holding you back, and no one really cares. And if they did, they don't deserve you anyway, so they can go back to high school. That's easy for personal brands. But the challenge for many businesses today as well is that they don't know how they're supposed to show up when they want to do so. One of the best ways is to tell the stories of your employees and your people. It most often makes your brand so much more relatable. So when you can, grab your phone, get perfection out of your head, consider live streaming some video, make human-to-human connections, and shine a light on others. Help tell their stories, and don't make them wear a branded t-shirt or a jersey every time either. Even the world's greatest football franchise, and I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys, even the Cowboys don't always wear their jerseys on every video. So the moral of the story is, go Cowboys, of course. Second, part of this topic really makes me think is how bad the sales pitches are today on LinkedIn. For the most part, they're horrible. A copy-paste of your text script rarely works. Showing yourself as engaging, often that's leveraging video, or just doing something to make you relatable would help. You waste so much time with these bad sales pitches where you haven't invested any time in your potential customer you found on social without building a connection. Think through that first and foremost, and then make some messages, personalized or not, even with a tool like video, to do so. Third, why are we talking about this? You've likely heard the need, either on my show or elsewhere, the power of video and how it can be powerful for you as a personal brand as well, but also for business brands in general. It's just because video helps you build those key factors. You do it to help people like, know, and trust you, whether you're in sales, marketing, a speaker like me, someone being interviewed for a position, or a brand wanting some more recognition. You don't have to be perfect. It's to help others like, know, and trust you. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. So go live and be you. And join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.